So now we're going to look at the problem set for lesson 15. Number 1. At lunchtime, Benjamin often borrows money from his friends to buy snacks in the school cafeteria. Benjamin borrowed 75 cents from his friend Clyde 5 days last week to buy ice cream bars. Represent the amount Benjamin borrowed as the product of two rational numbers. Then determine how much Benjamin owed his friend last week. So borrowing is indicated as a negative number, and he did that 5 times. So 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 5 times 7 is 35, 36, 37. And that would be $3.75 he owes. Number 2. Monica regularly records her favorite television show. Each episode requires 3.5% of the total capacity of her video recorder. Her recorder currently has 62% of its memory free. If Monica records all 5 episodes this week, how much space will be left? Okay, so she has 3.5% for each episode, and she's going to do 5 episodes. We're going to take that total amount away from the 62% she has free. So she has this much free minus 5 episodes, and this is how much each episode will take. So 3.5 times 5, carry the 2, 15, 16, 17.5%. So then I'm 62 minus 17.5. And we expect to see side work on your papers for these problems as well. And that's percentage. Starting at number 3, we're going to fill in the blanks with two rational numbers other than 1 and -1. So I'm asking myself, half of what is 20? Well, half of 40 is 20. So I know that I need two numbers here that are going to multiply together to give me 40. So I'm going to pick 4 and 10. You could pick 2 and 20. That would be fine. But half of 40 is 20, so I'm going to start there. And then I need to think about the signs. I'm ending up with a negative. So a positive times a negative, that would give me a negative. So a negative times a positive is a negative. So that's true. So what has to be true? What if I did this? -4 times 1, -1/2 times -10. What if they were all negative? Negative times negative gives you positive, and then a positive times a negative gives you a negative. So here they were both negatives. Up here they're both positives. So what has to be true about these numbers is 2 things. They have to have the same sign, and they have to have a product of 40. They have to have the same sign. That way my final product will end up as negative, because whatever these two are will be multiplied by a negative. So if these two have the same sign, they'll give me a positive, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So they have to have the same sign. And number 2, they have to have a product, which is the answer to a multiplication problem of 40, because half of 40 is 20. Okay, next question. Wow, this is a lot. Negative 5.6 times 100 divided by 80 times what equals 700. Okay, so when I start here, I need to think about some things. So in the previous question, we had something to start with. That's our first step here, is going to be kind of to simplify this and see what one number that is. So when I multiply by 100, this is going to be negative 560 divided by 80 times, let's just make that one blank for now. Okay, so 56 divided by 8 is 7. Negative divided by positive is negative. So negative 7 times something is 700. So this number has to be negative 100. But it's really in 2 blanks instead of 1. So how can I get negative 100 by multiplying 2 numbers together? So I could do 10 and negative 10. I could do 25 and negative 4. Basically, I could have any 2 numbers that have a product of negative 100. And in order to have a product of negative 100, they would have to have different signs. So, the 2 things that would have to be true, they would have to have different signs because it's 2 numbers, and I need a negative result. So they need different signs, and they also need a product. I'm going to put product of negative 100. So, there's another one. This time something times something is negative 0.75 or 75 hundredths. So first thing I'm thinking, what must be true, 2 numbers, and I'm multiplying, I end up with a negative result. They must have different signs. And the other thing that's true is they have to have a product of negative 75 hundredths. So right away, I'll start thinking about 75, and I know that's going to be 3 and 25. But it's not 75, it's 75 hundredths. So 3/4, put a 0 there, and then I can make one of those negative. It doesn't matter which one's negative. Either of them could be negative. So that's one possible answer there. Another possible answer could be negative 0.25 and positive 3. So they have to have different signs and a product of negative 75 hundredths. Let me skip that up. Okay. Next page. On this page, you are actually creating word problems, and then you're going to represent each product as a quotient. Okay, so your answers will vary for your word problems. Maybe I borrowed 25 cents from my mom every day for 8 days. At any rate, how much do I owe my mom after 8 days of borrowing 25 cents per day? I would multiply negative 25 cents times 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, so, and then it's going to be negative because positive times negative is negative. Negative 2. Here, this is a fun one. Negative 6 over 1 divided by 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4 thirds. So that would be negative 6 over 1 times 3/4, which would be negative 18 over 4, which would be negative 4 with 2 left over out of 4, which is negative 4.5. So for the word problem, maybe I could say I lost 6 pounds over 1 1/3 years. How many pounds did I lose each year? 4.5. Lost 4.5. That was kind of a hard one to come up with a word problem for. Alright, next, negative 1/2 times 12. We'll end up with a negative result. Half of 12 is 6. So negative 6.